National Geographic Kids. Ibn al-Haytham. The man who discovered how we see. Who was Ibn al-Haytham? Al-Hasan ibn al-Haytham, al-Hasan ibn al-Haytham, was an Arab scholar who lived in the 10th and 11th centuries. He was an expert in science and math. He made important discoveries about light and about the way vision works. He also used a new way to study science that scientists still use today. Ibn al-Haytham was one of the great thinkers of his time. Since then, his ideas have helped other scientists make new discoveries of their own. Many people think he was one of the most important scientists ever to live. Centuries. One way to measure time is in centuries. A century is a period of 100 years. For example, the years 1 to 99 equals first century, 100 to 199 equals second century, 200 to 299 equals third century, and so on. That's a fact. In some places, Ibn al-Haytham is also known as al-Haytham, which is the Latin form of his first name, al-Hasan. This drawing is an artist's idea of what Ibn al-Haytham might have looked like. Words to know. Scholar, a person who studies and has much knowledge. Growing up in the Golden Age. Ibn al-Haytham was born in Basra in CE 965, during the Golden Age of Muslim civilization. Little is known about his childhood. The Golden Age was a time of great learning in the Muslim world, which stretched from southern Spain to China. Men and women of different faiths and cultures studied science from earlier times and other cultures. They wanted to know about the world and to use this knowledge to improve people's lives. The Golden Age. The Golden Age of Muslim civilization lasted from the 7th to the 13th century. During this time, people made amazing advances in science and created inventions we still use today. They invented early versions of guitars and the first hang glider. They even discovered coffee. Lands under Muslim control at different times during the history of Muslim civilization. Words to know. Muslim civilization, the people and cultures found in areas within the Muslim world. That's a fact. The calendar we use today begins with the year CE 1. The time before that counts backward. It ends in the year 1 BCE. This illustration shows a public library during the Golden Age of Muslim civilization. This clever clock was made during the Golden Age. It was powered by water and weights. Moving robotic figures told the time. This was an exciting time for young students like Ibn al-Haytham. Highly trained scholars taught in schools. In Basra, the library held more than 15,000 books. Many of those books were great ancient works that had been translated into Arabic. Students learned from scholars in many subjects. They talked about discoveries. They discussed and debated ideas. Ibn al-Haytham loved learning about everything and became a great scholar, too. Soon, people far beyond Basra knew about him. Words to know. Translate, to change words from one language into another. In his time. When Ibn al-Haytham was growing up in Basra in the late 10th century, many things were different from the way they are today. Schools were mainly located in mosques, mosques, Muslim places of public worship. Both boys and girls started school at age 6. Classroom time was very serious, with no laughing or joking allowed. People traveled. By foot, on horse or camel, and by sea. They made maps and wrote about their travels so that they could share what they learned with others. Health. Hundreds of years before modern medicine, doctors in the Muslim world could treat all kinds of diseases, fix broken bones, and even do eye operations. They stitched up people after surgery using catgut. A cord made from animal intestines. Toys and games, people liked games that made them think. They played chess and did number puzzles. They built robotic toys that moved and made funny sounds so people could play tricks on one another. Trade, traders traveled in large groups called caravans. They bought and sold goods across 3 continents. Trouble in Egypt. Ibn al-Haytham was proud of his knowledge. He was so proud that he claimed he could control the flooding of Egypt's Great Nile River by building a dam. In his own words, "If I were given the opportunity, I would implement a solution to regulate the Nile flooding." His words traveled to Egypt. The Caliph, Kayf, al-Hakim, al-Haytham, heard about Ibn al-Haytham's claim. Cairo, the capital of Egypt, is on the banks of the Nile River. The Nile flooded each year, causing great damage to crops. After the flooding, water levels were too low for more crops to grow. Words to know. Caliph, an important Muslim leader, like a president. Nile River in Egypt. That's a fact. 1,000 years after Ibn al-Haytham said a dam could help the Nile River, his idea came true. The powerful Aswan Dam controls the flooding in present-day Egypt. The Caliph invited Ibn al-Haytham to Cairo and challenged him to control the flooding. Ibn al-Haytham accepted the challenge. He left to explore the Nile. Quickly he saw that he couldn't build a dam that would safely stop the flooding. If any dam could do that, he thought, the master builders of ancient Egypt would have built one long ago. The Mad Caliph. Although al-Hakim was a great supporter of scholars and scientists, he was also known to be an unreasonable and cruel leader. He ordered many people to be harmed or killed for little or no reason. Because of this, many people called al-Hakim the Mad Caliph. Ibn al-Haytham returned to Cairo to tell the Caliph he had failed. He was afraid. He knew the Caliph could be bad-tempered. Instead of punishing him, al-Hakim gave him a job as an expert advisor. But this job was no reward. Being near the Caliph put Ibn al-Haytham in danger. To get away from the Caliph, Ibn al-Haytham acted like he had gone mad. Al-Hakim put him under house arrest. Words to know. House arrest, keeping a person locked in a home as a form of punishment or as a way to protect other people. For more than 10 years Ibn al-Haytham was held in Cairo. He could no longer talk with fellow scholars. He could no longer discuss and debate his ideas. He was alone. But he did have time to think. He had time to read and learn. He had time to come up with new ideas that would change how people saw the world. A dazzling discovery. The golden age of Muslim civilization was a time of great discovery. But there were still many things people didn't know. One big question was, how do people see? For centuries, scholars had debated the ideas of ancient Greek thinkers. Some people believed that rays shoot out of our eyes, making things visible. Others thought that something comes into our eyes, allowing us to see. Ibn al-Haytham wondered if either of these ideas was correct. This picture illustrates the ancient Greeks' idea that people see because rays shoot out of their eyes. Legend says that Ibn al-Haytham was sitting in a dark room one day. He noticed a bright light shining on the wall. He looked closer. It wasn't just a beam of light. It was an image of objects outside his room. But they were upside down. How was any of this possible? Ibn al-Haytham began to search for answers. The light was coming through a tiny hole in the wall. He blocked the hole with his hand. The image disappeared. He took his hand away. The image came back. Suddenly, he understood. Light bounced off the objects outside, traveled through the hole, and made the image. He thought the opening at the front of an eye must do the same thing. Rays don't shoot out of an eye. Light comes in, just like the light coming in through the hole in the wall. This dark room was like an eye. That's how people see. The dark room. In Ibn al-Haytham's time, many scholars simply believed that ideas from the past were true. They did not question what they read. They didn't think old ideas needed to be tested. In his own words, if learning the truth is the scientist's goal, then he must make himself the enemy of all that he reads. Ibn al-Haytham disagreed. He wanted to test the old ideas, especially those about how people see. He wanted to prove which idea was correct. He also had new evidence from the light in the dark room. So he decided to start testing. Ibn al-Haytham gathered supplies. He built a small box. A sheet of thin paper made up one side of the box. Across from the paper side was a small hole. Next, he placed 3 lit candles outside the box in front of the hole. Then he looked at the sheet of paper. The camera obscura. Ibn al-Haytham's box came to be known as the camera obscura. Camera is the Latin word for room. Obscura means dark. Experimenting with the box, he discovered that a smaller hole created clearer images. This idea led to the modern-day camera. He saw an upside-down image of the 3 lit candles. The light from the flames was bouncing off of the candles, traveling through